Yes, sir.
Praise God, praise God.
Would you stand to your feet, please?
Yes,
And would you repeat after me these words? This is the day that the Lord has made.
this is the day that the Lord has
And
made.
I will rejoice and be glad in it.
I will rejoice and be glad.
This is the day that the Lord has made.
This is the day that the Lord has made.
It may bring sunshine and it may bring rain.
It may bring sunshine and it may bring rain.
It may bring pleasure and it may bring pain.
It may bring pleasure and it may bring.
But this is the day that the Lord has made.
This is the day that the Lord has
And I will rejoice and be glad in it.
made. I will rejoice and be glad.
Today I shall love all men.
Today I shall love all men.
And I shall hate no man.
I shall hate no man.
If today I cannot speak good of all men,
Today I cannot speak good of all men.
I shall not speak ill of any man.
I shall not speak ill of any man.
For greater is he that is within me
Greater is he that is in
than he that is in the world.
me that is in the world.
So today I shall answer every question
Today I shall answer every question.
with what would Jesus say?
What would Jesus say?
Today I shall solve every problem
Today I shall solve every problem.
with what would Jesus do?
What would Jesus
So every day and every way,
every day and every way?
I'm getting stronger and stronger, yes.
I'm getting stronger and stronger. Yes.
Every day and every way,
Every day and every way.
I'm getting wiser and wiser, yes.
I get wiser and wiser. Yes.
Every day and every way,
Every day and every way.
I'm getting healthier and healthier, yes.
I'm getting healthier and healthier. Yes.
Every day and every way,
Every day and every way.
I'm getting wealthier and wealthier, yes.
I'm getting wealthier and wealthier. Yes.
For this is the day that the Lord has made,
This is the day that the Lord has made.
and I will rejoice and be glad in it.
I will rejoice and be glad.
And it's a great day to be alive.
It's a great day to be alive.
You may be seated in His presence, and this is the day that the Lord has made. It's the very first day of the rest of your life. Wherever you're going, you'll have to go from here today. And it's a great day just to be alive. Every day is a great day to be alive. I am excited about being at Serenity North. Two churches, or one church in two locations. And I want to begin as I always do. I am 75 years old. And over the last 75 plus years, I have been guilty of many sins. Some of them have been sins of omission. Some have been sins of commission. Some have been sins of disposition. Many sins. But if there is one sin of which I always pray that Floyd Rose is never guilty, it's the sin of ingratitude. God didn't have to wake me up this morning. Now start me on my way. But He did. I thank Him for that. Bishop M.C. McGee, I never knew what that M.C. meant, but Bishop M.C. McGee didn't have to invite me to this pulpit today. He is a far greater preacher, and perhaps there are others in this audience who know far more than I, but for whatever his reasons, I thank him. And I appreciate the opportunity. Now, I've got to say what I said Tuesday night. God has given him a lot of faith. A lot of faith.
Yes, Lord.
But he's also given his wife a lot of brains. A lot of Now listen, I'm not going to be long. I want to thank the choir and for that singing.
Amen.
And I saw something else this morning. Just take a minute. The young couple that came up here.
Amen.
While I was impressed with their educational attainments and what they've done and what they've accomplished, but I noticed something else. He baptized them 15 years ago, or married them, I'm sorry, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And they stayed with this church.
Amen.
Now let me tell you, I have seen in my lifetime young people who simply in their own minds at least outgrow the people who helped them the most.
Amen.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I'm sure he does. God bless you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you,
Trish, good to see you. One of my daughters over at the old family church years ago used to sing in the choir. My own daughter Jennifer's here, and I spent the week with her, and she took care of her daddy, and I appreciated that very much. And I told her as we talked on last night or this morning, I don't know how much more time I got left, so that you all will all know, I already told my daughter that if she intends to bring me back to Toledo, I want her to make sure that he speaks as my friend.
Amen.
And he's the best friend that I have ever.
My God, my God. Yes, Jesus. Yes, Lord.
All right.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord.
When others decided to go another way, people always hear about my side.
Amen.
Always.
Amen.
I thank you for that.
Amen.
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 Now listen, you may not be, but 2 or 3 of y'all look like you might be old enough to remember Jack's mom's maiden. I'm not saying you're that old, but you look like you might be old enough to remember Jack's mom's maiden. As I listened to the choir sing this morning, and I thought about all that was going on. I remember Jack's mom's maiden that said that she was at a bus station in St. Louis and waiting on the bus, and there was a brother there who walked over to a fortune teller machine, and he shoved a quarter in, and a little card came back and said, "You're black. You weigh 150 pounds, and you're 5'5", and you're on your way to Chicago." The brother looked at the card, looked at the machine, and said, "No way." He put another quarter in, the card came out and said, "You're black, you weigh 150 pounds, you're 5'5", and you're on your way to Chicago." He looked at the card, looked at the machine, and said, Saw an Indian standing nearby. Said, "Come here, man." The Indian walked up. He said, "Step up here right quick." The Indian stepped up to the machine. The brother put another quarter in. The card came out, said, "You're an Indian, you're 5'6", and you are 5'9", and you weigh 155 pounds, and you are on your way to Idaho." The brother looked at the Indian, looked at the card, looked at the machine, and said, "Let me borrow your head, Miss brother." And he took the Indian's feathers, put them on his head, and he said, "Let me borrow your blanket." And he took the Indian's blanket and wrapped up in it real tight and walked up to the machine and shoved a quarter in. The card came back and said, "You're still black. You weigh 150 pounds and you're 5'5", and you were on your way to Chicago, but you done messed around here with this Indian and missed your bus." I don't care whether you went to Morehouse or no house, whether you got your degree from Yale or got it in the mail. I don't care whether you live on Broadway or nowhere, or don't even have no way to live, you're still black. And somebody black helped you to get where you are, and you must never forget that. Never. God bless you. Now, I want to share with you a word, and I'm not going to read it, but at your leisure, I want you to read the 6th chapter of the book of St. John. The 6th chapter of the book of St. John, and you will remember it's the story there of the miracle of the 5 fishes and 2 little, the 5 barley loaves of bread and 2 little fishes that were in the hands of this little boy. Well, let me begin by suggesting that the miracle of the 5 fishes and 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fishes is the only miracle that Jesus performed that you'll find in all 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now other miracles are sprinkled throughout the four Gospels, but this one miracle you will find in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Well, Jesus is out on the side of a mountain teaching. He was obviously a long-winded preacher, because as the day wore on, one of his disciples, Philip, said to him, listen, why don't you send these people home? It's getting late. Send them home so that they can find bread for themselves and for their children. And Jesus said, I'm not in the sending home business.
All right.
Tell him I said, sit down.
Yeah.
And in searching among them, Philip said, look, I found a little boy with lunch. Just 2 fishes and 5 barley loaves of bread. But Andrew spoke up and said, wait a minute, that ain't enough. And Jesus said, maybe in your hands it's not enough.
All right.
The value of anything depends on whose hands you find it.
All right.
Listen, a basketball in the bishop's hand, and I know y'all love them and you should, a basketball in the bishop's hand is worth about what he can pay for it at Walmart. But in LeBron James' hand, that same basketball is worth $185 million. A baseball in my hands is worth whatever I can pay for it at the sporting goods store. But in the hands of Gabara, the president of the Detroit Tigers will tell you that it's worth $292 million.
Amen.
In my hands, a golf ball is only worth what I can pay for it at the sporting goods store. But when the tiger comes out of the woods and he takes that same golf ball, doesn't even have to hit it the first time, but if he shows up to play, it's worth $3 million. So the value, are you all on the bus? The value of anything is determined by whose hands it's in. So in the hands of that little boy, and by the way, you ever try to take some boy's lunch? You gotta fight on there. You don't just give up his lunch.
Amen. Brother, we hungry.
But this is just ain't any boy. That boy understood that if he gave Jesus his lunch and went back and sat down among the rest of them, he'd get as much as the rest of them.
All right.
So he gave Jesus his lunch.
Yeah.
And what did Jesus do? He didn't just start passing it out. God Almighty. The first thing he did was raise it toward heaven and thank God for it. If you thank him for the little that you do have, he has a way of making it much. He has a way of taking the worst and making it the best. He has a way of taking liabilities and converting them into assets. He has a way of taking burdens and turning them into bridges. God has a way of taking people on the top and putting them on the bottom, and taking people on the bottom and raising them to the top. So he took the 2 fish, 5 loaves of bread, raised it toward heaven, and thanked God for it. And the book says, then he passed it out and it began to multiply. He didn't say, well, let me see what's going to happen to it and see before I start. No. He just started passing it out. And the book says, as he passed it out, it began to multiply. As he passed it out, it do something with what you got. Passed it out, it began to multiply.
Amen.
Now watch this. So everybody ate, had more than enough, they took up 12 baskets of leftovers. And watch it, you might not go down there. Watch this. They had 12 baskets of leftovers. And Jesus said to his disciples, now, I'm going up there on the mountain to pray. I want you to get in the boat and meet me on the other side. Where's Jesus? Up in the mountain alone. Sometimes you just gotta be alone.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Your mama can't go with you, your daddy can't go with you, your sisters, your brothers, your children. Sometimes you just have to be alone. I heard somebody say, I come to the garden alone, where the dew is still on the roses. And he walks with me and he talks with me and he tells me that I am his own. When I'm with him alone, he said to them, I'm going up there. You get in the boat and I'll meet you on the other side. Wait a minute, Jesus. If you're going up there, how you going to meet us on the other side? That ain't none of your business. I told you that I'm going to meet you on the other side. And so the book says that they got in the boat. The remnants of that fish were in the boat. The remnants of the bread were in the boat, which meant that his power was in the boat. His provisions were in the boat. But where is he? Up in the mountain praying alone. And he sent them to the other side. The other side of the Sea of Galilee. Now watch this. The Sea of Galilee was 8 miles wide. 8 miles wide. Watch this. The book says that when they got to the middle of the sea, the center of the sea, in the midst of the sea, suddenly a storm came. Watch this. If the storm had hit on the first mile or the second mile or the third mile, they could have just turned around and went back. But Jesus waited to send the storm when they got to what the Jewish calendar says was the fourth watch of the night, in the middle of the sea. Now the Jews counted time this way: from 6 to 9, first watch; 9 to 12, second watch; 12 to 3, third watch; 3 to 6, fourth watch. When the hour is darkest, it's just before the dawn. He waited until they got in the in the middle of the sea, in the fourth watch of the night. He then sent the storm. They were as far, wait a minute, they were as far from their origination as they were to their destination. They were as far from their origination, where they came from, to where they were going. In the middle of the storm, or in the middle of the sea, at the fourth watch of the night, at the darkest hour. Can't see the moon now? Can't see the stars now? They're just out there. All of a sudden, maybe y'all didn't know this. Y'all do know that Nazareth was the hood. You do know that. Jesus came from the hood. Y'all ever watch Barack Obama say when you get ready to do something, well, I don't know about this because we ain't never done that before. Well, you ain't seen that before because it ain't been done before.
Yes, sir.
They had never seen him like that before. And so he called out to them, look, don't be afraid, it's okay. It's I. Peter said, Lord, if it's you, why don't you just tell me to come? And Jesus said, well, come on. Peter stepped out on that word come and started to Jesus. Watch this. Now, as long as he kept his eye on the solution, he didn't have a problem. You know what I'm saying? As long as he kept his eye on the solution, he didn't see the problem. But the book says, when he looked around and saw the wind, he started looking at his problem, took his eyes off of the solution, and boom, he started sinking. What does that tell you? Look, if you focus on the ditch, you're going to end up in the ditch. All right. Your problem will overwhelm you as long as you focus on your problem. But if you focus on the solution, you don't have to worry about the problem. Before you blame Peter too much, he was the only one that had the courage to get out the boat. The rest of them back there does like this. If you want to go on out there, you go ahead, but you're going to be by yourself. We ain't going. Watch this. So Jesus come walking. And they said, it must be a ghost. It's a spirit. They've never seen him like that before. And he said it is I. Watch this. Then the book says that he got in the boat with them. Earlier I told you he put the remnants of that bread and that fish in the boat. So his provisions were in the boat. His provisions were in the boat, but his presence was not in the boat. Watch this. I said his provision was in the boat, his power was in the boat, but his presence was not in the boat. But watch this. As long as his provision was just in the boat and his power was in the boat, he let the boat just reel and rock. But when he stepped in the boat, read the 21st verse of John 6. It says, immediately they landed on shore. Because he was in there with them. I wish you could see this.
Thank you, Jesus.
Just take the Lord with you.
Thank you, Jesus. Everywhere you go.
Wherever you go.
Thank you.
Because you'll not only have his power, his provisions, but you'll have his presence. I'm going to quit right along through it here. My daughter told me not to take off my coat, but I'm going to take it off. I'm going to close now. I just want to close.
Let the Lord have his way.
When I tell you this story, there was a man, a rancher, who owned a large ranch in Texas. His foreman just quit on him. And he was about to go on vacation out in Arizona. And so he advertised for a foreman. Several resumes came in, but he just wasn't impressed. And then one day, a young man walked up on that ranch and said to the owner, listen, I understand you're looking for a foreman. He said, yeah. He said, I'm looking for a foreman, but I don't remember getting a resume from you or any kind of application. He said, well, I didn't bother with that. He said, what do you mean you didn't bother with that? Well, why should I hire you? You didn't send in a resume, no application. He said, because I always sleep in a storm. He said, you telling me that you want me to hire you and your only claim to fame is that you always sleep in a storm? He said, yes, sir. I always sleep in a storm. Well, he wasn't impressed with the other resumes or application, and so he said to the young man, listen, boy, I'm going to give you a chance now. I'm going to put you in charge. I'm getting ready to leave here. But I don't want you sleeping on me. He looked at him and said, I'm telling you before you leave that I always sleep in a storm. Well, that old man thought that the storm probably wouldn't hit him. If it did, it wouldn't hit while he was gone, so he went on and hired him. Got in his chauffeur-driven limousine and left. And about a week later, he heard that a storm had come to Texas and had come in the direction of his ranch.
All right.
He said to his chauffeur, listen, I got to get home. And he got in that chauffeur-driven limousine and came back to that ranch, and he started looking for that boy. He didn't see him, and he went out to this house, this loft in the house, and he said, hey, where are you? And nobody answered, and he climbed up into that loft, and that boy was sleeping on a pile of hay, and he shook him and said, hey, wake up! Where are my sheep? Where are my goats? Where are my chickens? Where are my cows? Where are my horses? And wake up! He said, don't bother me, I told you that I always slept in a storm. And he just walked out of that loft and went around and started looking for his chickens, and he saw that they were all rounded up and in bay. He noticed that the cows were all rounded up, and he noticed that they were fenced in, and so were all of his other cattle and his horses, his mules. And he walked back through the center of that ranch, and he saw that the windmill had been tightened up and fastened down. And then he went back to the loft and shook that boy and said, maybe now I know what you were talking about. You could always sleep in a storm because you prepared for the storm. And I just want to tell y'all as I close this message now, that if you get with God when you got your job, He'll be with you when you lose your job. If you get with God when you got your money, God will be with you when you lose your money. If you get with God when you got your friends, God will be with you when you lose your friends. If you get with God when you got no problem, God will be with you when you got your problem. I just want to tell you, when you discover that God is all you got, at the same time, you will discover